Hello, Cornerstone Church. Pastor Phil here, coming to you on day 14 of our 21 days of prayer and fasting as we begin the year. We are, as of today, 2/3 of the way through and entering the home stretch. Tomorrow we will be in the final week and heading for home. Again, I pray that this is a fruitful time. I pray that this is encouraging and exciting for you. I also pray that you're breaking new ground in the Spirit in relation to the sermons, not the scriptures that we've been looking at, the different devotional themes, and so on, and in your personal prayer life as well. I pray that you're experiencing maybe a newness, a freshness, a new interaction with God, a new place of His Spirit working in your hearts and in your lives, and that it just continues to build and grow as we work our way through the year as well, that we can get the momentum going and positive momentum that we keep for the entire year. The theme for day 14 is treasures in heaven, and the text is Matthew chapter 6, 19 through 24. Jesus says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." In the devotional connected to this passage in our guidebook, Robert Watson works on this text, looking at the first section, and then looking at the second two sections of the eyes and the serving two masters as examples of the lesson he taught in the first. I would take a little different take on this, or I have a little different take on how the structure plays out and what the dominant point is. I think it's kind of the other way around. I think the third point is the main point of the passage, where Jesus says no one can serve two masters. That's the principle. That's the concept, and the other two are additional concepts, kind of proving out or laying the groundwork for that statement made in verse 24. So when we look at it from the first beginning part, I always say that Jesus, I've said many times, Jesus is the smartest person that's ever lived. But in this passage, what we see is Jesus giving the best investment advice anyone can ever give. Okay, if you think in terms of investment advice, what you're looking for in good, solid investment advice is something that's secure and something that's long-lasting, something that will benefit us for a long time. Jesus tells us the best investment that there is, and but it's not an earthly investment. It's an eternal investment. And if we look at life from the eternal perspective, he's absolutely right. Whatever the best investment that you could possibly get on this earth is, bank accounts now are paying 1% and 2% interest. So there's really no return on a regular bank account. Even if you go for money markets and other things like that, you've got to commit a lot of money, and maybe you'll get 4 or 5%, and that's considered a good investment. If you are a very savvy investment advisor, or someone who is really good at assessing the market, picking stocks, and so on, maybe if you're really, really good, you can get 9 or 10%. But let's say you could get 30 or 40%. Even if you can get 30 or 40% return on your investment, which is incredible. It's absolutely amazing. And you did that. And you ended up doubling, tripling, quadrupling your money over the course of a couple of years. And you became rich, rich to the point where all of your earthly needs were taken care of. And you had enough money stored away between interest that was still coming in and principal that you had that was safe and secure. You had enough to last you for the rest of your life. And maybe you could pass it on and it would be enough for a couple of generations. It's still only good for as long as you live in this life and the people after you live in this life. Once all of us cross over into eternity, it's no longer worth anything. Even the greatest investments are no longer worth anything. So Jesus is telling us what the greatest investment is, and that's heaven. And if we store our treasures in heaven, they will be safe and they will be secure for all of eternity. Again, that's the greatest investment advice that anyone can have. But the point that he makes in that passage, when he tells us to store our treasures in heaven, where they will be safe for all of eternity, he says this: "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Now, this is a statement along the lines of the point that he makes in verse 24. You can't serve two masters. It's a similar thing. We could say your heart can't be in two places at the same time. Your heart is always going to be where your treasure is. And if your treasure is in heaven, then your heart will be there too. That's where your focus will be. But if your treasure is here on earth and you are only investing in the things of this life, then that's where your heart is going to be also. So it's the same theme as the end, just expressed a little differently. In relation to the eyes, Jesus says, the eye is the lamp of the body. It's an amazing thing. Again, another bearing out of Jesus as the smartest person that's ever lived. I don't think that the ancient world had a concept of the eyes as the thing that allows light to come in to your body and interprets the light that you see in connection with the brain and so on. But that's exactly what happens, is that what your eyes do is they actually allow light to come in and then filter or recognize the difference in light that's coming in and the way shapes cast off light and so on. But Jesus, being the genius that he was, says, if your eyes are good, your body will be full of light. And that is a scientifically accurate statement and at the same time a theologically astute statement, referring to goodness and light in relation to goodness. If your eyes are good, you focus on the right things. You'll focus on eternity, and then your whole body will be full of light. If your eyes are bad, they'll only focus on the things of this life, and your body will be darkness. You'll be full of darkness. And then the last thing, in verse 24 and following, no one can serve two masters. The point of all of this is you can't serve God and money. You have to choose one. Now, we understand the reality of life that we live in. You need money to live. We have to have a roof over our head. We have to have clothes to wear. We have to have food to eat. Jesus understood that reality too. When he talked about God's provision, as we'll see, he understood that the lilies of the field had clothing. They had something that they wore so that they were outwardly recognizable. The birds of the air had food, and God provided food for them. So we understand you need money to have the things that sustain life. But God is the one who ultimately provides all of the things that we need. And while we may need money, we have to make a conscious choice not to serve money. We serve God, and God provides all that we need. And we can't ever get that confused. We only serve God, and he provides all that we need. So in all of these lessons, the point is clear, the theme is clear. We have to choose God, we have to choose eternity, and we have to focus our eyes on the things of eternity so that our bodies will be full of light. Because we can't have it both ways. And so I pray that as we begin this day, as we finish up the second week of our study, that we would allow Jesus' words to really touch our hearts and pray for God to open our eyes and help us to learn how to store up our treasures in heaven and what that means and what that practically looks like. But that we would, in all of these things, make a conscious, deliberate choice that we are going to serve God in our lives. We're going to serve God with our lives. And I pray that as we come before God and ask him for clarity in that he would open our hearts and open our eyes to what that means on every level of life. God bless you. Have a beautiful day serving Jesus.